Today we're talking about androgynes, which means we're talking about androids, which means we're talking about cyborgs, which means we're talking about a human enhanced with cybernetic components. Let's begin. The first thing I'd like to address is the topic of the infinite power supply that the androids are given. It's stated that Dr. Giro has supplied them with a sort of reactor that gives them infinite power, and this power is sort of internally generated, and that they can generate infinite energy, which I think is frankly kind of ridiculous, because that would imply like a perpetual energy machine, which I just don't think exists. If Dr. Giro were able to do that and essentially just have free energy, then I think he would be knocking on the door to creating a time machine. And frankly, I don't think Toriyama wanted to have this race to build a time machine element in the Android saga. I mean, it would have been a fun angle, but I just don't see him planning out that far. So I kind of want to throw that one out, first of all. Now, but it is still a reactor, so we have to use that word. That's canon. So I want to nail down that definition. A reactor takes components and produces energy with them. It doesn't just create energy out of nothing. So I think that's an important distinction. So given that the androids are enhanced at a cellular level, at the molecular level, like down to the DNA, like, to me, that implies that the reactor within them is taking energy not just from themselves, because metabolically they just couldn't produce that much energy. That's just no way. I'm thinking that instead what is happening is the androids are sort of sapping energy from their environment continuously. They're just kind of drawing on the ambient energy and focusing it to keep them at max capacity. Now, in this case, max capacity being the theoretical maximum for an organic creature. I have to think that that's what it is. Now, I bring up the idea of absorption because not just because I'm throwing things at a wall and seeing what sticks. I really think that that's what it is. I think it's sort of in his MO, Dr. Giro's MO, to go in that direction. And I think it's quite obvious when you look at the two types of models of androids that there are. There's the infinite energy model, which is Android 18 and 17 and 16. And then there's also the energy absorption model. And the energy absorption model is seen as the prototype. It's the more primitive version of the two. And it's kind of implied through the series that that's really the rough draft of the infinite energy model. That's where he was headed. So I think it's hinted at, it's heavily implied. And if you have a little media literacy, you could see that the infinite energy model is not really infinite energy. I mean, it is in name, but in reality, it's really just the perfected energy absorption model. But that's a little wordy, so you go with the infinite energy branding. It's kind of interesting. It doesn't really mean that their energy is infinite then. It kind of just means that they have as much energy as the universe. So really, it's kind of like the entropy model. The next thing I'd like to touch on is the nature of ki versus the conventional energy or metabolic energy or just energy that the androids are using. And there's a big difference. The energy that Android 19 fires back at Goku with when he absorbs his Kamehameha, he's absorbing energy, but that's not the same ki that Goku uses. He doesn't output that same ki, he just outputs raw energy, which is different because it's devoid of Genki. Ki being Genki, Shoki, Yuki, and potentially more. That's straight from the man himself. So if you doubt that, go read the interview again, and this time read closely, please. And how do you get that ki? How do you get those three things in one place? You have to have Genki, the vitality energy of the body itself. This is the stuff that keeps you alive, and it's really it's liveliness itself, it's vitality itself. Once that's gone, you are dead, and that's all there is to it. You have a set amount of this, and you burn through it at, one could infer, a steady rate through your life, and once it's evaporated, it's done. And that's not an alien concept. I mean, that's straight from Taoism. That's source material. It's the same kind of stuff that influenced Journey West, that influenced the Sayuki Tales, that finally influenced Akira Toriyama. Simple as that. And then you have to have Shoki and Yuki and potentially other kinds of ki. All of those kinds of ki come together to form the ki that is used in ki attacks. Now, why do I bring this up? Why does this matter to the debate here? Because in order to be alive and have that genki to power your ki attacks, you have to have a soul. You have to have a soul within the body. You have to draw breath. It's really not more complicated than that. So let me ask you this: if you're going to completely re-engineer yourself from the cellular level up, you're going to replace every single cell in you. Is this ringing familiar to any like philosophy majors out there? Perhaps, because it is to me, and this stinks. It absolutely reeks of Theseus's ship. It's the same thing. So yeah, I'm gonna call it. The androids did not survive their androidification process, their cybernetification process. Simple as that. I'm gonna take a stand there. So they don't have a soul. They sure don't act like it. Plus, and here's some more food for thought. It's stated that they're human-based life forms. They're not, it doesn't just say humans. If it would have said humans or enhanced humans, that would have been one thing. I could have let it go at that. But it said human-based. That seems a little suspicious to me. Kind of like, oh, I don't know, if you're of the vegan persuasion and you're shopping for food and you see something that says plant-based. What are you hiding? Why can't you just say plant? Doesn't it seem a little suspicious to you? Because it does to me. And this brings me to the mission of Dr. Gero. He wanted to create something that was perfect. He had no concept of Super Saiyan. He didn't know how far Goku was going to go, but he knew he had to do something big. And so he set out to create the perfect life form, something that represented the absolute maximum of output and performance for organic beings. Anything, it doesn't matter. This thing can put out just the maximum possible energy, and it's always at max. What a terrifying thing if you think about it. No wonder these things were thrashing the Super Saiyans. Now you think about that. When they say infinite stamina, they're talking about their energy does not decrease. They are always at max. The Saiyans, Earthlings, anything else, any organic creature with a soul, so a living thing, that uses a key attack, they're rarely at max. They're arguably never really at max. They're at a perceived maximum, not a theoretical maximum. I mean, think about it. I mean, when Goku and Vegeta, they clash, Gallic Gun versus Kamehameha, sure, you could say Goku went to max for a little bit. And let's say that he did, just for the argument's sake. Afterward, done. Dude was spent. Everyone knows that. So really, if you're lucky, and if you're really daring, and you're really willing to go to that mental hell, you could go to max one time in battle. And that's basically it. These guys are literally at every single second and instant of combat at maximum. Utterly terrifying. It's no wonder why they absolutely demolish everything in their path. Like, think about it. Even the Saiyans, Even the Saiyans have to draw upon a finite, although large, energy source. It's from, and what is it from, guys? It's from their metabolism. It's completely metabolic. Why do you think the meme of Saiyans eating a lot is a thing? And everyone's around the table looking on in horror going, how can anything fit, proportionally fit that much food into them? What is going on with that person? And frankly, I think the horrified stares are like, what is going to happen after they digest all of that? Anyway, I'm just saying that the point of that is that they have to fuel that. And it takes a lot more fuel for them because they're going for a much larger output. Meanwhile, the androids, they don't need that. They just need water to drink. By the way, how do you cool a reactor? Water. It's very efficient. Just saying. They don't need water for their metabolic process. They don't need a metabolic process at all. All they need is a little coolant to keep them from overheating, potentially. I don't know. I'm just spitballing there, but there's something to chew on there for you anyway. But let's come back to the debate now. Let's rein it in. Key attacks are contingent upon a unity of different keys. Most pivotally, I would argue, Genki. Without Genki, it doesn't matter how much Shoki or Yuki you have. It doesn't matter how strong your mind or your body are. If you don't have the power, if your soul isn't in good shape, you're not really there. You're not doing it. And that's why I think that people train the way they do. They train hard physically, but also they take time to go out into nature, to meditate, to do things that increase that other kind of ki or those other kinds of ki so that they have a richer, more well-rounded ki. And so their ki attacks consequently are much more powerful. And that's how humans normally, because as a human, or a normal human anyway, you're going to hit the wall pretty soon. Like imagine like all the natty athletes just like screaming at their screen right now. You're going to hit the wall pretty quick and then you're going to be disappointed. What are you going to do? You need something else. And for humans, or at least creatures with a soul, because I think Saiyans fall into this too, and Namekians definitely, Piccolo with his meditation, are you kidding me? Without that, there is the enrichment of the soul, and that's what gives the ki the extra punch that takes it beyond the biological or metabolic, to be more specific, limit. That's something the androids don't have to worry about, being that they're always at max, but they're always at a theoretical metabolic maximum. The maximum for an organic creature, not necessarily the maximum for an organic creature with a soul. And that's an important distinction. That what the androids forfeit, or rather what the doctor forfeited for the androids, was this ability to take their ki to new heights by taking the Genki away from them. So they got the maximum output in this perfected body, but they lost that ability to transcend. Something else I wanted to touch on briefly is just what makes up this infinite stamina. What is the definition of that? It means they can go at max all the time, but also means that they largely ignore damage. Now, if the functionality of, say, you know, a ligament or whatever is compromised, or if it just plain doesn't work anymore, if they snap a ligament, that limb is going to have trouble moving. And I think, you know, it's plain to see in the Piccolo versus Android 17 fight. I mean, people talk about this. I heard Saiyan Scholar, by the way, I want to thank you for the inspiration for this video. But I think it's true that he wasn't hitting as hard as he could toward the end of the fight as he was in the beginning of the fight. And I also think that if he was fresh, he probably would have resisted Imperfect Cell a little bit more, but that's another video. Ugh. Another component of the infinite stamina, I think, is it would have to manifest in some kind of light healing factor. Imagine being at your metabolic max. It'd be like have eaten a sensu bean, but constantly. Imagine that feeling. So the sensu gives you the energy you need to heal yourself. And then you do. Your body does that. Forget how that works, but whatever. That's the lore. So I would have to think that a creature like that that's always at max energy would have to have some kind of healing capabilities. Now, I'm not going to say that it's on the plot armor magic level the sensu bean is. That's not what this video is about. But I'm just saying that it seems like, just in context clues there, it seems like it would make sense for the androids to be able to heal quickly. And I think that's why when they get up and they look angry, I think they're already in the process of healing. And I think that's why it looks like they hit back like harder. It's like they power up. They don't really power up so much as they get angry and they're already healing, and you're expecting them to be damaged and weaker, but that's not really the case, and you're caught off guard with a big attack. I think that's what's really happening in those scenes. Really, I'm talking about the history of Trunks when I'm talking about that. The androids, I don't know if they would age in the same way that we would do. I don't know if they'd have eternal life, and I mean true eternity. But I think it would be close enough that it would just be completely obnoxious to calculate the numbers. I mean, I really do think that they could easily cross the 1,000-year threshold. I mean, think about it. Turtle lives for 1,000 years, and it's just a turtle. I mean, admittedly, it's probably eaten, some of the, what is it called? The herb of immortality, or not, or eternal life, or whatever. Correct me in the comments. It's fine. But at the end of the day, it's still within the normal bounds of what we consider possible for an organic creature. These are clearly not. They've transcended that limit. So who knows how long it could go? And for all intents and purposes, it could just be eternal life. Now, here's a little bit of a problem. The androids are shown training and getting stronger. At least Android 17 is. Now, what's up with that? Now, we just said that wasn't possible, so how is this? One moment, please. Well, it really wouldn't be possible in their original state. In the state that we find them in the series when they're introduced, it would not be possible. They don't have the same soul that they once did. Now, when a certain Android 18 dies and is revived by Porunga, then, and by the way, you have to wait until the Boo Saga to get that one. When that happens, then she could train and she could achieve something that she couldn't before. She could increase the output, which is actually a frightening thing. Think about it. You have maximum energy reserves all the time, but then you could just go ham and then you could increase the output. Oh my goodness, forget about that noise. So, how does Android 17 get stronger? Well, let's take it back for a second. As we know, Android 17 in Dragon Ball Super is a park ranger. He's out in nature, he's doing his thing. He says he's like training and whatever, and maybe he has to like rein in the Cell Juniors every once in a while, which are exactly as strong as Perfect Cell, and I don't want to hear it. I'll make another video about that soon, so, But he's not, I wouldn't call it big training, and I don't think you could pass that by anybody and have them believe it. If they did, maybe ask them about their credit score. Be concerned, because that person, Anyway, how does being in nature just make you more powerful? Now think about it. One of the very first plot armor power-ups from Toriyama Sensei happened in early Z, if I'm not mistaken. Could have been beforehand, but it's when the guys go off their own separate ways, and a lot of them just go travel and just be in nature. Now, a lot of people, they don't really realize this, but being in nature is therapeutic. It really does something for the soul if you believe in souls. Now you want to doubt that, and that's fine. You don't have to swallow that. Besides, it's all kind of mystical anyway. But let me ask you this. Why do you think the Shaolin Temple is in the forest? Think about it. It's in the woods. It's not in a controlled, air-conditioned environment. It's in nature, a confluence with the very soul of Earth, with heaven and earth. So frankly, I think 17 being a park ranger is actually the perfect catalyst for his development. He doesn't need to make his body stronger. You guys are thinking too linearly. There's a reason why the Turtle Hermit School, their way is to train hard, eat hard, and I think study hard is the other one. They're out there in nature, enriching their souls, and what do they have to do? They have to take care of the other two. They have to take care of the mind, and they have to take care of the body. And that's it. That's how you build strong ki, and that's what you're doing. You can't tell me that Krillin and Roshi and the rest of them, the people who honestly could do like planetary feats by now, probably. Yeah, definitely, actually. Are just like, they can bench, a quadrillion tons. You can't tell me that. I won't believe it. But that's not how they operate. It's the key. Meanwhile, 17 is out here. He's already got the perfected body. He doesn't need to train hard, eat hard, and, well, maybe he could study hard. But you know what I mean. What he really has to do, now that he's been given his soul back, is to go out into nature and enrich it. And that's exactly what he's doing. Whether or not he knows it, and I don't think he does, he's just getting stronger by virtue of, like, natural enrichment, which is kind of a cool thing to think about. It's like, just chill and let Mother Earth take care of the rest. How great is that? But what Toriyama's unwittingly done, or wittingly, which is kind of terrifying, is created the blueprint for the ultimate perfection, because there's really no limit. And this is part of the mysticism, again, from like the materials that inspired Dragon Ball, is that there's no real limit to how much you can enrich your soul, how much you can enrich yourself as a person. And so if you already have a body that's perfect and that's actually reached perfection, how far could you go? Like, it's literally infinite, the potential of these people. And I don't mean that in a Broly way. I think that's trite, honestly. I really do think that these are the ultimate warriors. Now that they have souls. They weren't before. They were just terrifying. But now that they have souls, oh man. I'd also like to touch on a point that was made in the Saiyan Scholar video. Perhaps a couple more points. That there's this kind of notion where the android process, the cyberfication, or whatever you want to call it, is kind of a multiplier, and I think that's erroneous. I think it's not that far off, honestly, but if it's a multiplier, it's a multiplier by mistake. So if you take a person, and presumably with a power level of 5, because that seems to be the average, right? So two power level 5 people, and you take them up to power levels that just, dwarf, Super Saiyan, regular Super Saiyan, so way over 1 million. And, then you run the numbers and you're like, whoa, that's a big multiplier. You're right, it's multiplied a lot, but it's not a multiplier of a lot, if that makes sense. It's just a multiplier by accident. What's really happening is you're taking some schmuck and you're taking them to the pinnacle of what they could theoretically perform at, which is a completely different thing. So if you wanted to make, any of the Saiyans into androids, I am confident, I will stake down on this one, is that what would happen is that they would get stronger, sure, but they would just go to the organic theoretical limit. And I'm saying that if you went to a version of Goku or Vegeta or whatever, let's just choose a Saiyan, after the android saga, so when they're stronger than the androids, I'm going to stake down and say that they would actually drop down to a level relative to the androids in the saga, because the android process takes their souls and thus takes away their Genki and takes away a crucial component in amassing and strengthening their natural ki. And then they would just have the regular old energy that the androids have been using, and it would be really, I think it would be the same, because it would be at the theoretical max for all organic organisms. Saiyans, humans, doesn't matter. I think it's a max across the board, and I think that's why Vegeta especially got such a shellacking by Android 18, because he was still relying so heavily upon that metabolic energy. And if you think about it, if you're relying on that and you're going to go up against the androids, forget it. You are going to lose. You are just going to lose. I mean, let's look at his training. And I'm going to do a Vegeta training video soon, so I won't talk too heavily on this. But I'll just say that Vegeta focused a lot of his training, I mean a lot, on just getting stronger. He was training his body. And what that was doing was training him to produce more of that metabolic energy, that component of his ki. And I didn't really see him doing a whole lot of meditating or reading or anything else that would have kind of honed or refined any of his other components of ki. So he did get stronger. I mean, you know, credit where it's due. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's just not going to make a difference in the androids. You have to train all types of chi, and if you want to go and surpass what they're doing, because they clearly have the inside lane when it comes to regular old, you know, physical metabolic energy. I might have had more to say, but I forgot to write it down. I think that's pretty much it, though. Thanks for sticking it out with me, and yeah, I want to hear what you guys think. I'm not claiming to have an end-all be-all guide to androids, because frankly that would imply that Toriyama has an end-all be-all guide to androids and that he just has the canon vision down pat. And frankly, that's not his style, and I don't think that's any artist's real style. They just create, and to say, well, this is this and it's this, it would water it down, and you know, it just wouldn't be that fun. So I'm kind of glad that there's not a bullet list of things that are and are not. All I'm aiming to do is just add a little logic, use some context clues, use a little media literacy, and give you guys something to chew on. So chew on that and have a nice day.